Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Oh, checking. Okay. Hello, welcome to A Moment in Time with Taylor. I go live every single day, 365 days a year. And at the making of this live stream, I have been live every single day for over 4 years straight. And one of the things I love to talk about on my streams is books. I like mostly nonfiction books, and this book falls right into that category. Although I will warn you, people who've been following me for a while and like the same books that I like, poor Luke Boardman, who has edited this book that he's been really wanting me to read, has been waiting so patiently for me to read his book, and I just feel like I should probably prioritize that in my list. So might be doing a fiction book coming up here soon. Thank you, Luke, for sending me a copy of the book and thinking that I'll be interested in it. We'll see. I don't read a lot of fiction, but anyway, today is nonfiction, which is this book, Willpower by Roy Baumeister and John Tierney. Roy Baumeister is a social psychologist, and I am a psych major myself. I'm about to finish my bachelor's degree program. I have 1 semester left, and I love reading these kinds of books. So this book is about willpower, and it says rediscovering the greatest human strength. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I really enjoyed this book a lot, and I've been having trouble finding books that I really like, and I really did like this one. So I will give this book probably 5 stars, but definitely at least 4 stars when I do it on Goodreads. Yeah, I'm the girl from Twitch, Jose. First comment to the broadcast. Okay. So first, I'll start by talking about what they said about willpower in terms of what it is. I definitely suggest reading this book if you're interested in this subject, because this is kind of an overview, a summary, a review, what I thought about it, what I pulled out of it, what highlights and little golden nuggets I found within it. But other things might be more important to you and stand out more to you, like they get into addiction and how willpower, what kind of role willpower plays in addiction, and diet, things that I'm not going to spend a ton of time on today on this review, but definitely feel free to go deeper yourself if you want. You can sign up for my book reviews email. It's in the description of this video. I think it's towards the bottom of that list of social media things. And you can sign up to get my book reviews emailed to you for free. So it'll actually have a link to the book so you can get it yourself. But I only send those emails out every, I think, 4 months or so. So if you just sign up, you'll get 3 a year. I just don't want to spam people's email inboxes. I just kind of send out a lump sum of everything I've read over a few months all at once, and then you can read it at your own leisure. And I'll put links to these reviews in there as well, so you can choose the medium of your preference. All right. So a major factor in willpower, and a lot of what they've found through doing social experiments and lab experiments on people and kind of judging and testing their willpower, has to do with glucose. So they found that if they had somebody do some willpower inducing activities without eating anything, they performed more poorly than they did if they had a milkshake right before. And now this isn't an argument for health. Obviously, there are other foods that are better for keeping your blood glucose level at a healthy state, like proteins, but in a lab setting environment where they're trying to test things quickly, a milkshake is, high sugar content that absorbs right into the bloodstream, and they can kind of test glucose differences that way. Is there any other benefits? Like maybe it's not just the glucose, maybe it's the different type of food, but I think they have done experiments using different types of foods, and it does seem that just generally when we're hungry, we make worse choices and we just have less willpower. So what is willpower? It's basically the energy that we use when we're making decisions or controlling ourselves. So if we are controlling ourselves from doing a behavior that we don't want to do, if we're trying to control our thoughts, or we're trying to control our feelings, any form of self-control like that would be using up willpower. And it's a finite resource. Many tests have shown that the more you use it, the less, the harder it is to use after you've used a lot of it. So it's not like there's really no one in the world that has just an infinite amount of willpower. Anyone can get worn down on their willpower, and everyone does from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. But there are ways to conserve that willpower, and there are ways to potentially increase the reserves that you have. So we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end. So anything where you're controlling yourself. Hi, Mikey. How are you? I'm glad that you liked the ASMR video from a few days ago. And anything when you're making decisions, from simple decisions to what time am I going to set my alarm for in the morning? What am I going to wear today? To big decisions like, how am I going to avoid this car accident right now? How am I going to save my company? What am I going to do with my kids? Going through, life-changing situations like divorce or a death in the family, whatever it might be. There's big life-changing decisions. And there's like your everyday kind of mundane decisions that seem like no big deal, but they do still take a toll and they still do cost some amount of willpower. So it's important to understand that. A second thing I thought was interesting in this book is something that I've been studying for a few years now, which is hormones. And the female hormones in particular. As myself, I am a female, so I'm always curious. When I'm reading nonfiction, I'm curious, what's the use of this? How can I practically apply this information into my life to make my life better and to make the lives of the people that come into contact with me better? How can I spread good information and know more about myself so I can present myself in the best way and clearest way, help people to understand me and understand myself so that I can navigate relationships in the world more easily? So I thought it was interesting that they found that women at certain times of the month, particularly when they're on their period, require higher levels of glucose because their body, just by simply having our period, we're using up more glucose than we normally do. And then the way that the hormones influence us, they didn't talk about it too much, but I'm sure it has some type of impact on our ability to access that willpower energy and just in general feeling more sleepy. Those hormones just affect you differently at different times in your cycle. And knowing when you're around those times of the month to maybe avoid making really big life-changing decisions if you can help it. Try to kind of plan your life in a way that's going to set you up for success. Hello, Andy. How are you? Thank you, Mikey. Okay, so you can get decision fatigue. So here's the first way to help you conserve your willpower, and it's by making less decisions. So, and remember, choosing to do nothing is still a decision. You still made a decision not to do any of the things you were supposed to do and chose to take a nap instead or whatever. You made a choice. So every time you make a choice, it takes away from your willpower. And now for a long time, for the last few years, I've worked from home and I've studied from home. And I haven't had to do a ton of driving, but I've recently started working on my boyfriend's real estate business with him because I like learning about new businesses and new things and finding side hustles, and he needs the help and I like money. So, hey, it's all good. And because of that, I've been driving a lot more. I've been driving to appointments and driving a bigger area than I normally would because we sell properties really anywhere in New Jersey and even Pennsylvania. So I noticed, because I was reading this book right around the same time I was starting working with him, and I really realized how much willpower just driving somewhere takes. And the more driving you do, the more willpower you're diminishing because of the amount of decisions that come into play with driving. Every moment that you're on the road, you're deciding, which way am I going to look? Which way am I going to turn? Am I going to speed up? Am I going to slow down? Am I going to change lanes? Am I going to try to make this light? Am I going to go the long way, the back way? Am I going to do the tolls? Where's my easy pass? Is it where it's supposed to be? Did I bring everything I needed to bring? Is my seatbelt on? What's that dinging going on? What radio station do I want to listen to? What song do I want to hear? Am I going to read my text right now and potentially endanger people's lives? Am I going to stop and get McDonald's that I just drove past? Am I going to, it's like, holy crap. There are so many choices that we're making just by driving down the road, which feels so mindless and monotonous. And most of you guys probably do it every single day, to and from work at least. But even just those trips, especially the longer they are, they really do take away from your willpower because there's so many decisions that you're making. I can reach the gas pedal just fine, okay? You can scoot the seat forward enough. I'm fine. I can see over the windshield or the windshield, over the hood, over the wheel. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Okay. So that's a great way to, oh, sorry, I didn't say what's a great way. So it's important to understand decision fatigue because this is how you can conserve the amount of willpower that you have. And it does seem like maybe genetically there are some people that basically have like a little bit more willpower than others. So we'll talk about increasing your reserves after this. But in terms of just conserving what you have, try to make yourself have to make the least amount of decisions possible. Maybe use your GPS so you don't have to make a decision about, oh, did I miss my turn? You know, every 2 seconds. It kind of takes some of that pressure off of your mind. Can also stunt your ability to, know how to get around. So I definitely suggest like not using your GPS all the time, but it can be helpful, especially on longer trips. And avoiding traffic and things that you wouldn't necessarily want to have to deal with. That's just a matter of efficiency as well. You want to maybe like set your clothes out the night before, and kind of do meal prep, have your day kind of planned out and mapped out. Use your calendar and stick to it, because then you don't have to make so many decisions. You've laid everything out. This is what you want to do in this order at these times. And now all you have to do is execute. And when you're left with not having to make the plan and make all the decisions and execute all in one lump, it's a lot more effective. And this goes to just basic planning. We've read a lot about procrastination, planning, organization, and the saying, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And this ties right in with that because of how it affects your willpower. So therefore, you're going to have a harder time controlling yourself and a harder time making decisions if you're not leaving yourself enough willpower resource to do that. When are you going to take your shower? When are you going to exercise? Have that all mapped out ahead of time, because then all you have to do is do it, and other decisions are going to come up, right? So you still have to drive, you still have to make all those decisions, but now you know what you're going to have for dinner, you know what you're going to have for lunch, you know what you're going to have for breakfast, when you're doing this, that, and the other thing, so that you don't have to figure it out on the fly day of, and then, oops, I ran out of time because I didn't really plan my day out well. And then you're more stressed out, and the more stressed out you are, the less likely you are to execute optimal willpower also. So that's by limiting the amount that you need. A way to increase the amount that you have and increase your reserves is by practicing, by using it. So on days when you can afford to, flex that muscle a little bit and practice the willpower more, you might want to. So doing things like practicing not swearing. Things that as we become adults, a lot of times we take it for granted. We're just like, wow, we could swear anytime we want. But even just trying not to swear, something like that can help you. Things like diet and exercise, these are bigger choices. It's a little bit trickier to use those to practice with. So little things, you want to do your makeup every day this week or straighten your hair every day or something, something that you're just practicing using a little bit more, doing a little bit more, because as you start to get used to that, your body and your brain can basically handle more of it. So I like the practicing not swearing one. That's a good challenge, I think. It's good for just being aware of your thoughts and your habits as well. So a great way to help you with this, and it comes especially handy in dieting and some of the harder things that we have to exert willpower over, like addiction, are what are called bright line rules. So a bright line rule is a clear, easy to follow rule that whether or not you broke it or not. So you don't want to do vague things. So if you're trying to change a behavior using your willpower, like quitting smoking, you don't want to be like, hi, Avo, how are you? You don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to smoke less. Like, I'm not going to smoke as much. I'm not going to drink as much coffee. I'm drinking less coffee. Okay, fine. It's really hard in the moment, though, for your brain and your body to really know whether or not you're succeeding at that. Are you having less? I don't know, maybe. Is it not as often? I don't know. Like, because you didn't do it one time, you're like, okay, there we go, I'm good. Now I can just go back to my normal way. It's harder for us to really like execute on such a vague intention. So doing a bright line rule means it's a bright, clear line. There's black and there's white. You either did it or you didn't do it. So I tried this after reading this book on my next trip that we took to Florida. I said, okay, anytime we go out to eat, we get salad. So it doesn't matter what kind of salad it is, but we only get salads. So we're not doing, like, it could be chicken Caesar salad. It doesn't matter. We're not worried about calories here. It could be all sorts of different kinds of salads, but we're just trying not to say, okay, well, I'm going to count my calories on vacation. It's so hard. I mean, I barely count my calories when I'm home. And so easy to count our calories these days. And still, it's like I barely do it. If I'm on vacation, I'm definitely not going to do it. On vacation is when I'm drinking, I'm eating dessert, I'm just like, oh, that looks good. Give me some of that. And I'm like really overindulging. So the salad thing worked really well for us, actually. Thanks to this book and the idea of a bright line rule, we tried some really interesting different salads, and we didn't have that decision fatigue from looking at the whole menu, reading all 50 choices and being like, what do I want? Do I want a burger? Do I want pasta? Do I want seafood? Do I want an appetizer? Do I want tacos? Am I gonna get dessert? Like all these things. It was just like, you just go to the salad part of the menu. There's like 4 options at most restaurants. There you go. You got 4 choices. And what they found too is that you're more likely, this isn't from this book, but in general, I don't remember where I learned this, but it's been tested. They found that people feel more satisfied with the decisions that they make when they have less choices to choose from. So let's say ice cream. You go to an ice cream parlor, they have vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. 3 options. You can twist them, whatever. You can do Neapolitan, you can get all 3, whatever, your choice. Well, in those instances, most of us know of those 3 flavors, which one we're gonna like the most in one moment, or maybe what mixture of those we want. Go to a different ice cream parlor and they have 36 flavors. And all of a sudden you're left thinking, okay, which of these 36 flavors do I want? And what could I possibly be missing out on? So you end up with a feeling of like, okay, maybe you like what you got, but there might have been something better. So you're actually not as satisfied with your decision as you would be if you didn't have so many choices. So I think that's important to understand as well. So with the menus, if you're going out to eat, something like that, maybe setting a certain amount of money in a certain bank account that you use when you go out drinking or something. Okay, I'm going to put $100 in this account, and that way I'll know when, or maybe bringing the cash with you. That's, I think, what's his name? Dave Ramsey. I think he suggests that, like actually using your own cash because you can see it and you're more attached to it rather than the card. It's like so easy to swipe a card and not really have, like psychologically our brains don't always process that, like how much money exactly just went away versus how much money we have, because we're so detached from like the cash world. So using cash can help with monetary control, self-control. And you can kind of follow that for a lot of different things. For quitting a drug, a bright line rule, an obvious one that most AA type places use is you quit cold turkey, right? You go completely, you're never going to use it ever again. It's a bright line rule. If you broke it. If you use it at all, you've broken the rule. And, it's not the end of the world anytime a rule gets broken, but it's clear to you like where the line is and when you cross it. And then the final thing I'll talk about that they talked about in this book that I thought was very interesting and very important for all of us to understand, especially if you have kids, but just in general. And that is the self-esteem movement. So the self-esteem movement came from kind of psychologists discovering the concept of self-esteem and realizing, oh, a lot of kids that have bad outcomes in their lives also have low self-esteem. So perhaps, right, in a hypothesis, if we can boost children's self-esteem and make them feel better about themselves, they'll do better and they'll have better outcomes. Fair enough. Fine hypothesis. What they found, the self-esteem movement basically evolved into this participation trophy type world. And I talked about this on my last video, so you can check out my replay about the 8 Great Smarts by Kathy Koch. I talked about how, it's like in that book, it feels like she just wants to be able to tell every single kid that they're smart. And it's fine that you want to be positive with people, but typically when you say the word smart, we're talking usually about like intellect, like logical, rational, numerical type intelligence, not so much like in that book she talks about being like good with people, being a good communicator. Is that smart? She calls it people smart. It's like, okay, but now everybody's smart, right? Because there's 8 different categories of smarts and you're bound to have one of those. So therefore you're smart. And it's like, it borderlines, because you find that like, is it great to just tell everyone that they're great? And without them really doing something extraordinary without them actually kind of earning the accolade, basically, like the participation trophies. You know, everyone gets one. Well, who did the best? Like, how, where's the performance? Where's the result that we can say? But these people did exceptionally well. It's, you know, important. So yeah, you prefer less choices. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So they do that with restaurants too. If there's a restaurant with a very small menu, you're usually like, you're choosing between like chicken or beef or something, you know. It's not like a big ordeal of like, oh my God, what kind of meal, what kind of cuisine do I want right now, you know? Even beers. Like, have you ever been to a place with like 50 beers and you're just like, oh my God, like what beer do I want? I have no clue. All right. So the self-esteem movement and kind of some of the downfalls of that was just basically that they found that by boosting people's self-esteem, it didn't improve their outcomes. And that basically it might not have been the bad self-esteem, the low self-esteem that was causing bad outcomes, but it was the bad outcomes and the bad life circumstances that was causing low self-esteem, which is actually good and healthy, because you don't want people to feel good about being in shitty situations. You know, you don't want to be like saying, oh yeah, everything is great, because they know it's not great. They can feel it. They're in it. They're in the shitty life circumstances. Sorry, I just swore. So much for controlling swearing. And they don't feel good about it. So by telling them they should feel better is confusing, and it's not like evolutionarily programmed in us to feel good when things aren't good. And that's good. It's good feedback for us to understand when we're on the right path. When we're feeling good, we're feeling confident and high self-esteem, probably because we've been having good outcomes. We've been getting good feedback, so we feel good because things seem to be going our way. You know, just trying to build up somebody's self-esteem without changing their environment and their circumstances and their outcomes, it doesn't make sense. It just simply doesn't make sense. So there's that. Then we have self-control. So self-esteem versus self-control. And they found that self-control is the much more important skill, much more important category to focus on in a person's development than self-esteem. Self-esteem is not really that important, but self-control is vitally important. And the most successful people in the world tend to exhibit the highest levels of self-control. And they found that with Asian children, who are typically, like if they're raised in by Asian parents, right? Not somebody who's like adopted by white parents, but someone who grows up with an Asian culture, even if it's not in Asia, like even American Asian or Asian American people are raising their kids to just have more self-control, is very revered in most of the Eastern societies, was to control yourself, control your emotions, control your behaviors, control your thoughts. You know, you do what you got to do to, you know, like they have high expectations of their kids being lawyers and doctors, and they don't really like, they're like, it's important for you to do all these hard things. That's good. It's good to do a bunch of hard work. It's not all about, oh, you're so great, even if all you did was like get up off the couch this Saturday. You know, it's really about like earning those accolades and kind of saying like, oh yeah, I can get you the brand new car once you have your master's degree or something, you know, like really holding their kids to higher expectations. And I forgot about this, but as I'm on my little tangent, I'm remembering another thing I thought was important in this book, particularly if you have kids or if you happen to be of school age, is that if your parents' expectations of you academically are lower than your own expectations, you're much more likely to perform poorly than if your parents had higher expectations of you. So the higher the parents' expectations are for your academics, we might feel like, oh, it's too much pressure on the kids, it's not that important. Well, there's a lot of studies that show that people with college degrees earn more money than people without them. So it is of somewhat importance. Now, I'm an objectivist, okay? So I don't think everyone should just go to college just because maybe they'll earn more money, right? Not everybody's built to succeed in college, and college isn't for everyone. Not everyone has to be a wildly successful person, and you don't have to fight against something that is kind of, you know, you want to go in a way that makes sense for you. So college isn't necessarily the thing for everyone, but I thought it was interesting that if someone's parents are basically like expecting, hey, just pass, just get D's, the kids actually like even might not even be able to do that, rather than the parents whose expectations are straight A's. And if you get a B, it's like, what happened? You know, we think, oh, we might be like, oh, that's like too much pressure on the kid. But it's like, it's showing them like we want excellence. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because in order to get straight A's, it takes a lot of self-control. And self-control is one of the most, if not the most valuable skill you can teach to your kids, that you can learn yourself and you can teach to anybody. It's just very, very important. It's a good thing to look for if you're hiring somebody as well. It's somebody who exhibits good self-control and has some, it's a good interview question, like what's a situation in which you exercise a good, you know, good self-control or something like that. All right. I think that's everything from this book. I hope you guys enjoyed this review of Roy Baumeister and John Tierney's work, Willpower, Rediscovering the Greatest Human Strength. And I'm going to get ready and go live over on Twitch. We'll play some games tonight. I know it's a little later, so we'll play a little bit of games. And also you can check out my replay. I just did another book review before this about The 8 Great Smarts by Kathy Koch, and that was a shorter one than this, so you have time to watch it. Hi, Bindi. Oh my god, why do you always come at the end of my streams? Good to see you. I'm going to go live over on Twitch now. Same username as on here, NexJuice. I love you. You are worthy of being loved and feeling comfortable in your own skin. So get out there, seize the day, carpe diem, exprime diem, squeeze the day. This has been A Moment in Time with Taylor. Hope to see you over on Twitch. And my next book review will either be on The Romantic Manifesto by Ayn Rand, or there's a fiction book that the editor of the book actually sent me a copy and thought I might be interested in, so I might check that out soon as well. So stay tuned. I'll be doing more books as always. Bye-bye, guys.